So, is it fair to say that one of the hardest things that I think a lot of people have trouble with is apologizing? The simple act of an apology. Where do you think that ranks as far as things that are difficult for people to do? Because, in my estimation, and personally speaking from personal experience, ego gets in the way of a lot of things that we do. And sometimes we feel extremely justified in our actions, and therefore we double down into our biases towards ourselves that how can we be wrong? And that's where the strength of of self comes in to where we realize that we can't always be right. But again, ego, super ego, those things play a heavy role in getting to the point where you can have an admission outwardly to someone else in a sense where you're asking for a forgiveness, because that's kind of what an apology is. I'm sorry, can you forgive my actions? Or even with just out saying I'm sorry, the apology does it is asking, please excuse my actions. That's a hard thing to do. um, Sometimes even harder is to accept the apology, and that's a different energy in itself, because again, the ego, super ego, things like that will get involved and say, they wronged you and you're going to make them pay for this. You're going to make them pay. You're not going to just so easily be taken in or easily be put into a position where you're going to just take that. Here, just take any old apology. How dare they treat me like that? Don't they know what they did or what they said, blah blah blah. So it's a very interesting dynamic between the apology and the acceptance of an apology. Both have wonderful benefits for self growth, because a lot of times the first person that benefits from apologizing and accepting an apology is the person actually doing it. Is that you grow and you learn, huh, I'm not perfect, even though we know that. And I can be accountable for my actions and ask somebody else to, see me as vulnerable in that moment and say, can you forgive me? And again, it's an exercise in strengthening the self to stop harboring something once somebody has asked for forgiveness in that sense, because it's a powerful thing you're wielding at that point to say I do or don't forgive. Like, this isn't like a gladiator Roman sort of thing where thumb side or down depending if you want this person to live or not. We have to get past that, because we've all been there. We've all been that person on one side or the other, and the strength of it is to say, got a light that went out, and the strength of it is to say, I did wrong. Can you forgive me? And it is for the other person to have the strength to say, you know what, I recognize that I've been human myself, and for that I will. Now, forgiving doesn't mean you have to just forget it and move on. Sometimes the forgiveness is just to say I have to forgive for myself, just so I'm not holding on to this. I'm not carrying this person's weight for what happened to me. So there's a big part of that, and a lot of times that's the apology as well, is to say I have to do this to get it off of my soul, not to just absolve myself and say I can do it again, but it's to really move forward and say I can atone for this and I will self correct, or take the steps in which I can correct, even if that means an external source like therapy or something along those lines. So, very simply put, accept apology. What do you guys think? I do personally think, from personal experience, that both of these can be extremely trying when you are still in an ego, super ego sort of place in life where you're still not ready to concede and you're willing to die on your hill, all that stuff, just to be right, just to feel right. And sometimes, boy, that is just a terrible place to be, because you're holding that tension, and that's a bad place to be. So if we're looking at increasing our value in a non-financial way, we got to learn how to be able to rise above certain things, such as our own egos getting in our own way, because that's the first person that will trip your development up from actually growing and seeing the next levels in life. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this finds everybody in a good place. Total health of mind, body, and soul. You know, the ace up the sleeve. Advice, comments, experience, if you have it, please leave it in the comments. I would love to hear about it. Maybe we can start a dialogue with other people as well. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. So guys, have a fantastic day. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.